Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Straight Talk with the Sheriff. I'm Sheriff Joshua Ray, the elected Guadalupe County Sheriff. Today I want to talk about something I've largely stayed quiet on for over a year. The Guadalupe County Animal Shelter and the ongoing conflict with a local animal advocacy group called Friends of Dogs of Guadalupe County Animal Control. I will refer to them from here on out as FOD. I want to be upfront about why I'm addressing this issue now. We have taken the high road many times over. My personnel have endured public accusations, angry rhetoric, and a sustained misinformation campaign without firing back. Now, I still believe taking the high road was the right call, but there comes a point in time where silence starts to look like agreement. And I'm not going to let the people of this county continue to receive a one-sided, inaccurate picture of what has actually been happening. So today, you're going to get the straight talk. When I took office in January of 2025, I inherited a shelter operation that was already strained and a relationship with FOD that was already broken. One of my first acts was to actually honor FOD. I awarded them the Sheriff's Award in recognition of their years of service. I thought that part of the problem was that the prior administration hadn't acknowledged their contributions. I wanted a fresh start. I also restructured the supervision of animal services entirely. I assigned Sergeant Travis Cadell, a calm, experienced, and patient communicator who actually worked as an animal control officer earlier in his career, to oversee all shelter operations. I placed that operation under a newly created Support Services Division with multiple layers of command and oversight. And because we had received numerous complaints from FOD about officer conduct, I put body cameras on every animal services officer and required them to record all public interactions. So what do you think happened? The complaints stopped immediately. Not one single complaint since. Now, some might say officers cleaned up their act because of the cameras. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe many of the complaints were exaggerated, and in some cases, maybe even fabricated. For a while, things were looking good. I asked Sergeant Cadell to include FOD's main point of contact in the very difficult operational decisions that we're faced with daily. Decisions like, what do you do when a shelter running at finite capacity is 30 to 40 dogs over the limit? I wanted transparency. I wanted collaboration. I thought we were on the same page, but we weren't. FOD began pulling back from the difficult decisions. They would rescue the adoptable dogs, the easy ones, and leave us the rest. The animals with behavioral issues, the ones that had been in the shelter for months with no adoption prospects, those were left behind, forcing our personnel to make extremely difficult calls that nobody ever wants to have to make. Meanwhile, the hateful rhetoric on their Facebook page directed squarely at the sheriff's office continued. I reached out to their point of contact personally, more than once, and asked professionally and politely that they tone it down. And I want to be clear, I was never asking them not to advocate for the animals. I was asking them to stop vilifying the men and women who show up to this job every day and genuinely care about the animals and are doing the best they can with the resources available. It settled down briefly, but then it picked up again. By November of 2025, I asked to meet with the point of contact directly. I laid out what I needed in that meeting: a genuine partnership, collaborative solutions, and a change in the public rhetoric. Instead of coming to the meeting ready to work, they arrived adversarially. The point of contact was joined by 2 of her volunteers and a third-party observer. I was joined by members of my command team that had direct responsibility for animal services. I had hoped we could iron out a few of the disagreements and work towards better and more positive communication. It became clear very quickly that FOD was not interested in solving problems. They were only interested in conflict. I told them plainly, if they would not work with us, I would discontinue the partnership. Now, that was not the outcome that I had wanted, but I was not going to allow my personnel to continue to be publicly attacked while simultaneously being expected to collaborate with the people doing the attacking. A few days later, FOD severed the relationship entirely on their own terms, despite indirectly blaming us for it, and has continued their campaign to mischaracterize this office and our operations ever since. Now I want to tell you a little bit about Kingdom Rescue, because this is where the story gets particularly telling. After FOD left, we found a new rescue partner willing to work with us. Kingdom Rescue stepped up, and the relationship was, and still is, a good one. We formalized it with a memorandum of understanding, and for several months that worked. Within the last couple of weeks, though, Kingdom Rescue made the decision to terminate our MOU due to ongoing challenges with other organizations which impacted their ability to effectively place dogs into foster homes. I hope you can read between the lines on that. They also observed that larger organizations often relied on their own established networks, all built on postings about dogs being euthanized, which further limited opportunities for collaboration with other organizations. Kingdom Rescue has a strong foster-based network, but as a smaller organization, they nor any other rescue organization can withstand the amount of dogs that enter our shelter each month. Now here's the important part. It had nothing to do with us. Now let that sink in. An organization, talking about FOD again, that claims its entire purpose is saving animals was actively working to undermine another rescue that was doing exactly that. Kingdom Rescue affirmed their relationship with this office without hesitation. Despite terminating the agreement, they are still working with us to get animals adopted within the resources they have available. Again, they terminated the MOU because of interference from another organization, not because of anything that we did. Now I've asked myself, and I'll ask you, a very straightforward question. If FOD is truly committed to saving animals, why work to prevent other rescues from collaborating with us? Why only take the easy adoptable dogs and leave the rest behind? The answer, I believe, is relevance. FOD stays relevant and continues receiving donations by positioning themselves as fighters against a government agency that kills dogs. That narrative requires a villain. We're the villain. And as long as that narrative continues, other rescues hesitate to work with us, adoptions suffer, and more animals die. The organization claiming to save animals is, in effect, killing the very dogs it claims to champion. Folks, despite any commentary you may see following this broadcast, that is the plain and unfiltered truth. So where do we go from here? January of 2026, I formally notified the Commissioner's Court that I would not be managing the animal shelter after October 1st of this year. I want to be clear about why. The county sheriff is not statutorily required to operate an animal shelter. I looked at what all 254 counties do for animal services. We corresponded with over 200 of the 254 county sheriff's offices. Of that, only 11 operate the way we do, with the sheriff overseeing the animal shelter. I researched the law. Beyond managing loose livestock, shelter operations are not a mandated responsibility of the sheriff's office. The main statutory responsibilities of the county sheriff is enforcing the law, preserving the peace, and overseeing the operation of the county jail. I made that announcement because this Commissioner's Court needed to be compelled to act. As long as the shelter is my problem, it's not theirs. I was not willing to let them continue to underfund this operation, absorb the political heat on my personnel, and kick the can further down the road. My preferred solution is a partnership with a private organization such as a humane society, a model similar to what Como County uses, where the county pays a per capita rate for sheltering and adoption services. It's more cost effective than a $5 or $6 million expansion, and frankly, it's a lot harder to run a smear campaign against a private humane organization than it is against law enforcement. Other operations remain on the table, including shelter expansion under a new county department, partnerships with other jurisdictions, or some combination of approaches. I don't have a final answer yet, but we're working on it every day. If the Commissioner's Court and County Judge move forward with a viable plan and a credible timeline, I will extend my deadline. But I need to see a plan. If October arrives and there's nothing in place, I will close the shelter doors. Again, this is not because I want to, but to force movement on a problem. I'm not going to allow them to continue to sit on this problem without real and effective change. I've spoken with and collaborated with several of the commissioners on potential paths moving forward. They even have different ideas, but it is positive that there is discussion and ongoing communication. I have received no communication or corroboration from the county judge on this matter. You can draw your own conclusion from that. Nobody in this office wants to euthanize animals. My personnel, from the chief deputy down to animal services officers, have tried to formulate possible solutions within the current available resources. They have genuinely, earnestly tried. They deserve better than what they've received. I will advocate for them. I will not continue to sit back and allow them to be vilified by an adversarial and dishonest animal advocacy group. The citizens of Guadalupe County have a range of views on what animal services should look like and how much public funding it warrants. As you can likely imagine, they don't all see this problem through the same set of lenses. I represent all of them. My job is to find a workable middle ground, not to make everyone happy, but to make real, honest progress. Unfortunately, that has forced me to push some people, mostly elected officials, outside of their comfort zone. I'm aiming for results, not more talk. At the end of the day, this is about saving as many animals as we can, do so responsibly, being good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, and supporting the employees that are out there day in and day out serving the people of this county under extreme scrutiny. As always, I appreciate you watching. Have a great week, and God bless.